told us that you would never leave us and always be there for us. Why was my mom killed by a serial killer when she raised me my whole life believing that you would always be there? And, you know, the pain hasn't gone away and it's still there. And I just want to know, why does things like that happen?
Oh God, this man's pain is so real, so hard, so devastating. How can we answer him? What can we possibly say to represent what you would say to him? What can we say to this man who's talking to God about such a devastating event?
Yeah, I'm stuck for words here, because I'm not sure that God would show up and lead with words. Mm-hmm. You know, it begins with joining him in his pain. It begins with saying, the anger you feel and the injustice that occurred, I'll tell you one thing I'm sure of. God feels the same pain you do. He feels the same about the injustice. He hates the injustice of what occurred. So I don't know that I can explain anything to you in a way that's going to take your pain away, but you need to know God is with you in your anger at that and in your woundedness.
I think also when something like that happens, it's so devastating, there really isn't an intellectual answer that's going to get it for you.
One of the things he kept saying was, where was God? When his mom was dying, when she was going through this, it was putting several things together. Like for me, I listen to that and I hear, is the way she died the sum total of her life? So where was God? This woman who taught him, who loved God, couldn't he have rescued her? Wasn't she good enough to be rescued? And then to answer the question, was God there? Yes.
Yes, that's right.
And his presence, and even in his suffering and pain, God is there through the suffering and pain, not God is there if it's not there.
So God is there, and God understands the depth and complexity of emotions. Now, before we go on with this, I need to mention what's on our table here. This is our jargon jar, and the jargon jar is going to help us keep each other real, so that if we use a jargon word, a word that's not so real in our conversation, you each have coins, and they are chocolate. You will have to pay up into the jargon jar, and whatever coins you have left at the end, you get to keep and eat. So let's just practice for a minute. Does anybody have a jargon word you can think of that you might be able to spout off right now and pay up?
Sanctification.
Sanctification. We'd go right in, take out that. We'd call you on that. In fact, we might buzz you, and you can buzz each other for the jargon jar. Anybody else have
We're going with the shuns. I'll go with propitiation.
Propitiate. There you go. We've got a buzz.
That's a 2 coin.
I'm thinking of saying to that guy, oh, it's all just a blessing in disguise.
All right, so you've got us a cliche. There's some jargon. So you understand the jargon jar. You can buzz each other, and you throw in your coin. We have had a serious question about an event in someone's life that caused pain and suffering that will be lifelong. And what we've done is go back out on the street to ask people to react to that situation and to that questioner.
Hey God, you told us that you would never leave us and always be there for us. Why was my mom killed by a serial killer? You know, the pain hasn't gone away and it's still there. And I just want to know, why does things like that happen?
That is probably the hardest thing I've ever been asked in my life.
It's a tough video to watch.
You know, I don't know that explanation.
If I had to answer his question, I would say there is always a greater purpose when something tragic happens.
I gave you free will, I would say that.
Put us here, gave us free will, and some people are unfortunately horrible people.
That was probably God's way of calling her home.
Things happen to us for a wake-up call for us to turn back and see that really God exists. Things have to happen so we can turn and look to him.
I mean, I don't know why would he say that, but I believe in God.
I just say, just don't give up hope. Good things happen in the future, or should happen, and I'm so sorry.
So the last man on the street says, I'm so sorry. Let's think about these reactions as others struggle with responding to a man whose mother was murdered by a serial killer.
The Apostle Paul said, weep with those who weep.
Yes.
So he didn't say give the answers to, he didn't say explain. I really think that there's a part of what we have to do to be what God is to people in the world is to just come alongside them and sometimes just mirror back the feelings and join them in those feelings. I know that's not the whole answer. I know we got to address the question at some point, but let's get the order right. You know, weep with those who weep.
Well, I absolutely agree with you. There's no glib answers here. I appreciate their attempts. And quite frankly, the thing I kept thinking about was, look, I saw your empathy, but what if it were you? Or what if that were you asking that question? Would your answer be enough for you? And I thought to myself, you know, sometimes I think we need to go back to a moment in our own hearts where there was tremendous pain, and pain is the most lonely place to be. When you're in pain, you're totally isolated. And no matter how much goodwill somebody has, no matter how much they want to reach out to you, the most comforting people that have comforted me in the loss of my parents were people who just sat with me.
Yeah.
Just sat with me.
Responding to the pain of others, getting to empathy, we should think about a pain we've had. That helps us. Is that what our God can do? Our God is an empathetic God?
What a great lead. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think one of the things in that, our culture wants an answer right now. A reason, give me a reason where this is going. So whenever we want to answer these questions, we want to try to solve it now. And a lot of things, I don't think in the midst of that pain, any answer would work.
Right.
Even if the person who did it looked at you and said, this is exactly why I did it, your pain won't go away.
Right. No,
it won't be an answer. It won't, because your heart is broken.
Yeah.
And just like you said, just to be there with them, to say that you will hold their hand, you'll be that stabilizer if it's just someone sitting next to you in that dizzy time, just to say, I'm here with you.
Christianity is unique in the world's religions because it does say, not that God sends just a messenger or a prophet, but in Jesus we have Emmanuel, we have God coming and being among us. Right. So the truth is that in Christianity the answer is God actually steps into the pain, and he goes one step further. He doesn't just come alongside the pain. Think of how Jesus lived. Think of how he died. Think of, he was murdered.
Right.
He felt that man's pain and what the mother went through.
But it's a truth that needs to be sown in a certain time, because that message is a cynical message to somebody who's in pain. I want to recount a personal story. My father is a survivor of the Holocaust, and my mother is also. And so talking about pain to them and talking about a theological understanding of it didn't work. I mean, what do you say in the face of burning flesh? And so there was a season of healing and time and a place of coming out of that then all of a sudden the ground was fertile to put the seed in. You know, we have the right answer, but oftentimes with the problem of pain and suffering, it's earning the right to speak into their lives through silence and empathy, and also walking with them long enough to be able to find the time to plant the seed.
I mean, one of the things that makes it so much worse is if you feel like God has promised you not to have pain. Right? Okay. Right. And I heard that a little bit in his story. You know, you'd promised to be with us. Why did this happen? His expectation was because his mother was a Christian, this kind of thing would not happen to her, and that God had promised it wouldn't. And the fact that it happened meant God was not with her.
Yeah. Given that assumption that maybe we shouldn't have pain, I think you will be very interested, and maybe the rest of you, I know I am, in seeing what is in this last package.
Next on Ask God.
Here we go. Here's my package. My package of pain is...